has been a noteworthy leader in the business development, executive coaching, and consulting realm throughout South Florida. And she is the founder and CEO, president of Fusion Consulting Associates, LLC, a federally certified organizational development consulting firm specializing in providing customized business solutions to clients in various industries in both the private and public sectors. Her in-depth insight and keen attention to detail have been instrumental to her success in assisting clients with identifying systemic, employee, and performance-related challenges. She enhances her clients' ability to lead improvements in their organizational effectiveness, sustainability, and profitability. Additionally, Dr. Lewis has carved a serendipitous, oh man, I can't pronounce that word. I am sorry, but it's on the screen, so hopefully you'll read it. Her niche in the securing government contracts with her strategic approach that has yielded in excess of $20 million in awarded contracts for her clients. Recently, she diversified her business portfolio with the business portfolio launch of Fancy Vegan LLC. Her premium plant-based lifestyle brand brings awareness to lifestyle and food alternatives that are cruelty-free and environmentally friendly. In recognition of her civic leadership, Broward County government has honored Dr. Lewis with their Mentor Excellence Award. The city of Lauderhill also recognized her community engagement and advocacy for educational literacy and support for at-risk youth. She is also active in promoting mental health awareness, and as such, she serves as a governing board member for the Camillus Health Concern in Miami and vice chair for the Broward County School Board Small Business Advisory Council. She holds a Doctor of Education in Organizational Leadership with a specialization in conflict analysis and resolution, a Master of Science in Administration and Management, a Bachelor of Science in Legal Studies, and a certification in plant-based science and nutrition. So if there's any question as to whether or not our presenter today is knowledgeable and able to provide us with the information that she has purported to do so, I think we know now that she definitely has earned her stripes, and we can strap it on, sit back, relax, and the next voice that you're going to hear is going to be from Dr. Reggie Lewis.
Hello, beautiful people. Isn't it always interesting, right? You do so many different things and you forget about them and you're just your old average self. And to hear all of that on screen, I just feel really important. So you just kind of expanded my head there for a hot second. So today we're talking about monetizing your brilliance. And I want to give you a little insight about me so they can all put it into proper context. I'm a former educator, former administrator. Many years ago, I was in education, but it wasn't by choice. It was more or less a family friend that said, hey, you're great at this stuff, and told my mom, and she was like, hey, you're in graduate school, go to education. At least you're able to generate revenue and be able to still pursue your other goals. And so I ended up going into education. The goal was to just be there until my graduate program was completed and I was able to get on my feet and move forward. But like most educators, some may have been there, intended to be there for a short period of time, and you end up being a lifer. So I was there for a considerably longer than I had actually anticipated. And the interesting thing about it, for every position that I had in the school district, I never applied for any of them. It was always because someone thought I would be great with kids. I was knowledgeable about this. Hey, come on here. So that's how I ended up my first year. I taught dropout prevention at the 5th grade level, which was one of the most depressing things in my career. I never imagined that children were identified as dropouts as early as 8 and 10 years old, but that was the case. So these are students that, just to kind of give a little tidbit, for students that don't master the art, that aren't able to master the art of reading, phonemic awareness in 3rd grade, they're labeled as dropouts, potential dropouts, at risk. So from 4th grade on, you have these kids that are labeled as potential dropouts. So my first year went there, I was like, okay. By September, they'd already had 5 different teachers, and they're like, okay, they kept running the teachers away. So they're like, okay, well, let's try this. So she doesn't know any better. So I went in there, was able to have an impact. But after the first year, I found myself like in this really sad place because, having these students that were facing so many challenges and not having the proper resources, I decided, you know what? I'm leaving education. I'm going elsewhere. Did nonprofit for 6 months, and I get another call. Hey, we want you at this high school level. You'd be great with high schoolers. So I ended up in education again, at teaching English as well as history, social studies. And my thing was, okay, completing graduate school, I'll be here for a short period of time. I won't be here that long. Well, while I was there, the principal thought I'd be a great administrator. So went through the educational leadership program, and there you have it. So after that year, I figured, you know what? I'm really leaving this year. No, I'm really, really leaving. This is like year 4 or 5. I said, no, I'm really leaving. And of course, that didn't take place. I get another call the summer, that following summer, another principal at another high school say, hey, we want you to come on as our administrators, behavior specialists, working with, again, our at-risk kids, because I had this, I'd created apparently this niche in the school district for working with at-risk kids and being able to help them really grow academically as well as socially. And being that I was bilingual, it was perfect for this site. So I went there that summer. I had applied for multiple positions. I applied for this position at Memorial Hospital. I just knew that I was going to get that position. So when the principal called up, I said to her, well, she said, well, are you going to make a decision today? We want you to start tomorrow. I said, well, because I was so certain that I was going to get the other position, I said, well, can I get back to you on that one? And she said, she's like, well, how much time? I said, well, can I have a week? She was like, no, I'll give you 3 days. So 3 days went by, didn't hear from Memorial, and it was the ideal position. And so when I started at this high school, I never decorated the office because I always figured I had 1 foot in and 1 foot out. I just knew that the good Lord had something greater for me. And I would get that. Yes, I was hired from Memorial Hospital and I wouldn't have to stay. Well, our plans are totally different from God's plans. And so I ended up being at that high school for another 4 or 5 years. And this is the interesting thing about it. The entire time, it's one of those things where you're not working in your purpose or living in your purpose. You end up just feeling incomplete. While I loved working with the students because I was able to make tremendous gains with our students academically, socially, kids that people had completely discarded, those were my babies. And, the school was able to, that year the school had, they were at a point, they received a failing grade and they needed to really, the way the schools are graded, they have to improve their lowest quartile. And those were the students that I had, and we were able to make major gains. So I became the guru in the district for working with at-risk kids, helping teachers, helping them to understand how to deal with our children. But again, that was great for the district, but it wasn't necessarily the great best for me because I still felt like something was missing. So I continued to, I was praying and I'm thinking, okay, God, I know there's something more. I was on autopilot, just going to work, going through that rinse and repeat cycle. But I just knew that there was something more that I needed to do, but I didn't quite understand what that more was. And so I went through the process. A lot of times we pray and God answers our prayers probably in a whisper, but for us, we're waiting to hear that big loud, like, this is what you need to do. These are the instructions. God had already downloaded it in my spirit that there was something else that I would be doing. But for me, I just kept waiting, like, I got to wait for that client. I have to wait for that big opportunity. So in between time, I'm sending out resumes left and right, countless resumes, and still getting to that point. So one day I got a call from a friend and she said, hey, there's this position, a chief operating officer at our nonprofit. And I think you'd be ideal for this position. And after receiving so many rejections in terms of, but again, a lot of times we think of rejection, it's not necessarily rejection, it's God protection because he has something greater for us. But in the human eye, we look at it totally different, right? And so because we have this, we talk so much about self-esteem, but we don't really pay attention to our professional esteem because we live in a world where we equate who we are with what it is we do. So if you're not happy and content with what it is you're doing, then naturally, day by day, it takes a toll on you, and you find yourself in that place where you're coasting through and you're finding yourself comfortable in these uncomfortable places. So I found myself coasting through, just being, comfortable in this terribly uncomfortable spot in my life professionally. And I get this call and I figured, okay, wow, this is it. And she said, well, it's a panel interview. She said, but I want to tell you ahead of time, they're intimidated with education. So I said, oh, that's not a problem. So I said, I'll just put my education at the end of the resume. Did that. And some of you may have experienced where you hear that a lot of employees really don't go through your resume entirely. Well, this was a prime example. So I was super excited. I felt like, okay, God had finally answered my prayers. I'm going into this position. It's ideal. It's everything, all of my schooling, all of my experience, and this would be perfect. During the interview, it was a panel of like 7 or 8 people. I just remember being prepared and just being excited. And just as excited as I was, that excitement quickly dissipated. During the process, they were very distracted. They weren't really paying attention. They were asking questions, and of course, leadership questions, and I was answering them. After later on, I found out they said maybe I had the questions to the interview because I answered the questions in their estimation too perfectly. But here's the thing. My background is in organizational leadership. My master's is in administration and management. If I can't go into an interview and be able to really and truly pour in all of the information and knowledge that I've learned throughout my schooling, then that would have been a waste of all of my education. So they felt that I had the answer, which wasn't the case. And because at the end, had they paid attention to my resume, they would have seen that my doctorate was in organizational leadership. So I remember just sitting there. There's always like, you can hear the same thing over and over again, but sometimes there's like a turning point in your life, whether it's professionally or socially. That interview was a turning point for me. I just remembered saying to myself, never again will I sit before a panel of anyone to ask for a seat at their table. Never again will I put myself in a position where I'm asking for someone to validate my experience, my expertise, all of the things that I know that I can bring to the table. And so what ended up happening is I left there, packed left with my folder and everything else and my resume, went in the car. And I just remember just being so emotional and just tearing up. I said, this is it. Never again will I apply for another job. Never again will I sit before anyone else so they can just decide whether or not they like the side that my hair is parted on or not. That was it. So that's the day I decided that I am going to create my own path. And I realized God had already told me long before that there was another path for me. But because of my stubbornness and because I kept waiting for that loud voice to say, this is what I need you to do, here is the blueprint. That voice that I heard, the spirit that spoke to me years prior, it took sitting in that meeting, in that interview, to finally get it and understand it. We're all at different points in our spiritual journey, and sometimes we're more receptive and we're able to receive things better than others. But I think for me, it was at that point that I was finally able to receive it. So hence how we get into monetizing our brilliance. At that point, I figured I was in my graduate program. I was always told that I was great at all these different things. I figured my mom was a serial entrepreneur. From the time I was 5 years old, I was always her right-hand person in all of her business ventures. I was always that person that was extremely resourceful, whether it's in education, healthcare, whether it's technology, whatever it is. I'm that go-to person for everything. Although at times I would get paid here and there, and some things, most of the stuff I would do for free, not realizing that what we call our side hustle, it's really not there's power in the words that we use to describe the things in our lives. So what I was looking at as a side hustle, that was really my business model. It was more or less my job was the sponsor to my business model until it was self-sustaining. And that's what I had to realize. So the key thing that I had to understand first was when we're going through that process of what do we want to do with our lives? Where are we in our lives? We have to understand, where are we? So you need to be able to know, what is your why? My why was I felt that I was at a point where professionally I was deflated. I wasn't being properly compensated. I felt like I was losing brain cells every day. I wasn't at a point where I was happy about what it is I was doing. While I loved the students, I didn't like the system. And so once I was able to get to a point of being able to understand my why did I want more? There was something in me that was telling me that there was more. I needed more. I had to have more. There was something there. And that more was that I was in the wrong place. My assignment had been completed there. And there was so much more that was waiting for me down that line of that journey. So the key thing, what did I do? I identified my why. I wanted to be able to affect change. I wanted to be able to be financially independent, where I could, one, help support my family, as well as being able to be resourceful for my friends. I wanted to be able to free up my time. I love to be able to be engaged in the community. Mental health is really near and dear to my heart. Working with at-risk kids is so important to me, but I needed to have that financial freedom where I could, one, be able to have the time to do it, and two, have the resources to be able to give back into these different areas. So what did I have to do? I figured out my why. Then I had to get into how did I identify my gift? And there's so many of you in here today. If you can just put something in the chat in terms of, are you in your career where you're looking to transition into your business? Are you in a career where you feel that you're stuck and you have no idea whether you're turning right or left? Are you at a point where you're in a business where you feel that you need to pivot? Or are you at a point where you know that there's more for you there, but you don't quite know how to get out of there, how to move to the point where you're able to monetize what that more is. So if you can just kind of put something in the chat there so I can have a feel for who we have with us today. Because I want to get into the point of how I was able to get to the point of learning how to monetize what I now know was my brilliance all along. I had to first identify what my gift was. And sometimes we do things that we can do in our sleep, right? There are certain things that you're the go-to for everyone in your circle, family, friends, even strangers, that you're exceptionally well at. You do really well, but you're just looking at, I can do that in my sleep, but you're not really understanding, you're taking it for granted because it comes so easy to you, okay? So one of the key things was being able to identify what that gift was. So what I did was I took inventory. I started jotting down, what are the key things? I'm resourceful, I'm very analytical, I'm a problem solver, I love research and development. I have a way of working with people, and I have a high EQ, which is emotional intelligence. And so all of those things combined, all of the things that I thought were just my side hustle all along, they were really the things that would lead to where I am today. And life is evolution. You're always growing, right? For every point you get to, you feel that you get to one point in your business and you grow. You get to one point on your journey, professionally, emotionally, socially, and you still need to grow, right? So I was able to jot down, I took inventory of the things that I realized people would continue to come to me for. And then I went to the people in my life. I went to my friends, I went to my family, and I was asking them, what are the things that I do exceptionally well in your opinion? And I took that down. So I took inventory. And the common thread was I was a great problem solver. I was great at being able to affect change. I was great with being able to identify issues, deficiencies, and developing solutions to bridge those gaps. So all in all, the jobs that I was looking for, the answers that I was searching for, I had it all along, but I first had to identify what that gift was. So my undergrad is in legal studies, so I'm great at research and development. I'm great at analyzing documents. I'm great at analyzing problems and solving those issues. My master's in administration and management, hence dealing a lot with organizations. My doctorate is in organizational leadership, understanding the importance of systems and processes within organizations. And my specialization is conflict analysis and resolution. You're always solving problems. You're always dealing with a conflict, and we always need a resolution. And then coupling that with my mom, that was a serial entrepreneur from the time I was 5. So it was inevitable that it would get to that point, but I didn't realize it. I didn't understand it at that point. So that's how I was able to get to a point where I first had to understand, what is my why? Why did I want to do it? Because sometimes we think just because we're passionate about something, that means we're passionate, that's what we're supposed to be doing. No, not necessarily. Because you could be passionate about daisies today and tomorrow, or passionate about saving the whales. And then tomorrow you decide you want to save save pigs, right? So your passion sometimes isn't enough to sustain you through, because being a business is not for the faint at heart. So your passion sometimes isn't enough. So you marry your passion with your purpose. You find out what that purpose is. And you find that out through what the thing that people are constantly coming to you for, the things that you tend to be able to do in your sleep, and it gives you the greatest gratification, and you are doing it for free. So that's how you get into identifying those gifts. You take inventory. And then the next part of it was, now that I was able to figure out my why, that was going to drive my gift, right? So I understood my why, I identified what those skill sets were, and then I had to get into the point of utilization. How was I going to utilize my gift, my superpowers, my brilliance in the marketplace? And that's where it became extremely important for me to be able to do my research, find gaps within the marketplace, and being able to find out areas where finding areas where people need what I have. Because sometimes you may think that, oh, no one's going to pay for that. You'd be amazed. If it's an issue that you're solving, there's a market for it. But you need to be able to properly understand, how are you going to utilize what will make you unique in that marketplace, and being able to utilize it from that standpoint. So we get into those steps, right? So we get into the why, doing the mindful work, identifying your zone of genius, because we have things that we're competent at, we have things that we're okay at, but we have those things that we do exceptionally well, that we're great at. Identifying that why, getting to the point of identifying your gift. then we get into that point of how will you utilize that gift, which is really important, right? So that gift is your brilliance. That gift is your superpower. Okay, that's when you get into that point. And then the key point, which most of you want to know, how do you monetize it? So how do you identify your gift? How do you package it up? You need to crystallize it, create a strategy around it, and now let's monetize it. And so that's when we get into the point of monetization. And I do have a slide to kind of go over some of the different areas with you. So I'm not sure if we have it up as of yet, but I want to be able to just to kind of go over some. I know we have a short period of time, but I want to be able to allow an opportunity for some of you to ask questions during the session. So if we can get the slide up, that would be great. We'll be able to go over some of the different ways that you can actually monetize your brilliance. How can you get to the point? Every single one of you have something that you're exceptionally great at. And in some cases, there are some of you that have multiple gifts that you're exceptionally well at as well. So if we can get the slide up.
We're coming. Give us just a second here, Reggie. Okay.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate you. So we get into those things. So it's one of those things, a lot of times we get to that place in our life where we end up doing things that people think are best for us, but not necessarily what was really ordained for us. So in my case, going into education, that wasn't the path that I had chosen. I was there for a reason. And as they say, a season as well. But when that assignment was over, I had to get to, that's when I had that gnawing feeling. I felt stuck. I felt that I just wasn't in a place where I was maximizing my potential. So being able to, what I did was I was able to go into where I am now, which is the field of consulting, which is organizational development. So what was I able to do with that? So having that background, it allows me to, one, go into organizations, and even with startups, helping individuals from concept development to even building their small businesses to a point where they're able to sustain it. I'm able to, I work with new startups, mid-sized Fortune 500 companies. I'm able to go in, assess where they are within their journey, and being able to identify what their pain points are, what those deficiencies are, and helping them to bridge the gap between their current state to get them to their ideal state. So when I said I had to identify what my gifts are, I love to problem solve, I'm very analytical, research and development, solving issues, as well as having the emotional intelligence to really bring people together. So all of those are skill sets. When I was able to complete my inventory, that I was able to put into my consulting business. And then I do a great deal in the government contracting space as well. And with that, being analytical, research and development, understanding that part of it, which has been able to help me to get my clients $20+ million. It was just doing stuff that I enjoy doing anyway. The research, the analyzing part of it. So when we get into the slide, you see the first thing that we discussed was being able to clarify your why. Okay, being able to understand what your why is, being able to identify what your gift is or are, because some of you may have multiple, but being able to niche it down, being able to understand how do you utilize those gifts, and then getting into the monetization. Now, there are multiple ways, and we'll cover that today. So we get into the point of coaching and consulting. Where you're hearing a lot about coaches and consultants, right? Coaches and consultants have been around for a very long time. But I'm going to get into the importance of the significance of it in this particular era that we're in now. Okay, so we get to the point for every journey that you encounter in your life, every time you accomplish a certain point, there's always a higher level that you can still achieve for that next level in your life. And the key thing that I've realized for me, having coaches, having a champion, we have mentors, but having someone that champions your growth, that champions your success at every stage of your life, at every stage within your professional career as well. So someone said to me some time ago, which is something that I still find true in my life, and I still make sure that I activate it in my life, implement them. You always want to make sure that you have your mentors, your champions, right, that are above you, those that are constantly guiding you and that are able to kind of nudge you when you're veering off or to give you insight into different areas. But you always want to make sure that you're also mentoring and being a mentor and being a champion for other people as well. So what happens is you're covered. You're covered on the top and you're covered on the bottom. So it makes it a complete whole journey for you. So as you're receiving, you're also giving as well along that journey, which is really important. So when I embarked on my journey to go into consulting, I was lucky enough to have a very supportive family, very supportive people around me. And I was able to get to a point where I realized, okay, and what I've been doing all along was consulting. So I was very resourceful. So it was all consulting and coaching. So I remember trying to figure out, like, how am I going to break into an industry with this? So I remember I graduated from Nova. For those of you that have gone to Nova Southeastern University here in Fort Lauderdale, I remember I graduated, and they pride themselves off a higher, they graduate the highest amount of minorities in the industry, throughout the country. And I figured there was this big conference that was the conference of all conference for the industry that I wanted to go into, which was training and development, which falls in that umbrella. And it was very expensive. And I figured I need to be there, but I'm not sure how I'm going to get there. So being resourceful, I reached out to Nova. I said, well, you have a conference that you're a sponsor. You're one of the key sponsors at this event. And I'm a former student, and I wanted to know, how can I get tickets? And of course, I called the president's office. Of course, I was pretty bold. And his secretary is like, ha, 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 we don't do that. We can't help you. So that was that. I didn't take no for an answer. My little brain was kind of going back and forth. And I said, I know how I'm going to get this. So I called back and I said, I'd like to speak to the president. She was like, well, he's not available to speak to you. I said, well, I'll tell you what, here's the thing. Your university prides itself off of graduating the highest percentage of minorities in the industry. But what do you do by way of career placement, career advancement, once they've paid a significant amount of, once they've incurred all this debt for this degree? And at that point, she's like, well, I tell you what, let me get back to you on that one. So she reached out to, and lo and behold, I was able to get free passes to this event, VIP, might I add. They said, well, we're not able to sponsor your trip, but we'll give you full access, VIP access, and you just find yourself there. I'd already, key thing, when you have to be very intentional about the things that you're doing. And what I did was, when I looked at the conference, I looked at the attendees, I looked at the keynote speakers. I knew exactly who I wanted to speak to. I knew exactly what area I needed to go to. And so when I made it there, as God would have it, one of the top gurus in the industry, I also was a volunteer, because there was a certification that I wanted, and the certification was like $2,500. I didn't want to pay that. So I was like, hey, do you guys need volunteers? Volunteer, I was able to get the free certification while assisting. And I remember stepping out of the room for a second, and I ran into the lady that I wanted to speak to, Elaine Bike. And the craziest part about it, she was like, I said, hey, and I came to this conference and I really wanted to have an opportunity to meet you. She's like, well, where's your card? I said, oh, I don't have my cards with me. She's like, well, I need your cards, because everything happened in such a short period of time. When I was able to get the access from Nova to go to this conference, I ordered cards and had them delivered to my hotel. And when I saw her, she ended up, I went back, I said, here's my card. She said, okay, good. She said, as you're coming into this industry, always make sure you have your cards. She said, don't ever let anyone catch you without your cards. Because my thing was, one, I didn't have the resources to attend this expensive conference, but it was the international conference. Everyone in the world that's in this industry was going to be there. Two, I figured, you know what? Nova has my money. You're going to give me some return on my investment. So I ended up going to this conference. Later on, Elaine was the keynote speaker. She was doing a book signing. I was in the back of the room, in the back of the line. She called my name in the midst of hundreds of people. And I'm turning around and, looking around like I'm one of the only brown people there. And I was like, whoa, me? She's like, yeah, you. And so she had me, her husband walked me to the front of the room, and she said, where's your card? It was another test. And I said, I have more than what I had before. And I gave her the card again. She looked at me and she jotted something down. I had no idea what she was jotting down. Conference was over. I made a significant amount of contacts. That was the day, that was the birth of my consulting business. That was solidified Fusion Consulting Associates, which is almost like 15 years ago. And I haven't looked back since. And when I returned from my event, from the conference, this lady that had never met me, didn't know me from a can of paint on the wall, she sent me 8 of her best-selling books. Each one of them was autographed. And she said to me, I believe in you. Go and make your dream happen. Okay, so you need people around you that believe in you. I remember when I was afraid to leave my job, because fear can paralyze us in so many ways. Fear and faith can't reside in the same place, but when you're in the midst of something, sometimes you tend to forget that. And I remember speaking to my brother, and he said to me, what are you afraid of? He said, I believe in you. Make your dream happen. Leave. And I kept trying to wait for that perfect opportunity to leave my job. And then my brother, one day he called, he said, listen, I want to have a conversation with you. I was like, okay. He said, you need to. He said, you decided to leave. He said, I believe in you. And he handed me, I believe he wiped out his savings and he gave me $10,000. And he said, I believe in you. Make your dream happen. And when you talk about, sometimes we try to figure out, we wonder all these what ifs. We start asking ourselves questions and we start answering them. And in essence, we delay our growth. God had already spoken to me some time ago. I wasn't listening. I just kept thinking that there was more that he was going to say to me. That wasn't the case. I needed to be obedient to leave. I did just that. And when I did, everything else started to happen. Everything else happened, started to fall into place. I was thinking, how am I going to survive? I don't have any clients. My brother was like, here it is. Do what you need to do. I was trying to figure out, there's this industry. How am I going to go find clients? Reached out to Nova. They gave me the VIP access to this entire thing. And being able to step out on faith, listen, and be open to what the world has for you, what God has spoken to you, being able to say, okay, say yes, I receive it, I'm ready, which brought me to this point of where we are now, monetizing our brilliance. So we get into, if we can go maybe 2 or 3 slides ahead of this one, so before this one, I'm sorry. So we get into, we spoke about the why, how I identified my gift, how was I able to utilize it? And now I want to get into the aspect of helping all of you to understand, how do you monetize the gift, your superpower, your brilliance? So we're able to, so public speaking, professional speaking is one of the ways. And being able to, there's so many opportunities where you can speak on your expertise and people are really paying. Do you realize that speakers can make, people are receiving like $20,000, $50,000 for speaking engagements? So it's one of the ways. So the thing that you do exceptionally well, bottle it up, package it, and start utilizing it for monetization. So when we get into the previous slides, I'm not sure if we're able to walk. We get into the coaching and consulting. You look at your expertise, you find that niche, you find that area, and you start reaching out. And there are some steps that you need to take to get there. We don't have as much time, but I do have a masterclass that I'll be conducting this Saturday. So if if you're able to, that's fine. I'll put the link in the chat in a little while. So we get into professional speaking. You get into, some of you love to travel. You can, become a travel consultant for hotels, for travel destinations. So you're able to travel and still make money. Okay. And they're paying exceptionally well for that. Some of you have these unique skill sets in terms of people are constantly coming to you to ask you, how do I, how can I? You have those coaching abilities as well. Your ability to solve issues within your respective industry. You have that consulting part of it as well. Then we get into the event planning part of it. It's not just your traditional event planning. It's not just, setting up at conferences, which is definitely a great opportunity, right? Being able to get into the event planning management part of things, right? You can go to the convention centers and be able to develop a relationship with them and become a consultant for them. Okay, you could become one of their vendors. So there's so many different events that take place throughout the year, but that's one part of it. But if you notice, I have a great, beautiful destination picture on this particular slide, and it was intentional because keep in mind, we're at a point right now where people are having all of these retreats around their expertise, teaching people what they do, sharing their brilliance with people, their expertise. Keep in mind, the human intelligence is something that computers cannot replace. So we talk a lot about technology, but the human intelligence cannot be replaced. And you can still utilize that in a way that could really and truly help you to establish yourself, establish your business for sustainability. Because keep in mind, business is not, you just don't want to have a business that lacks structure, lacks systems and operations. It's not a business because chances are it can't be replicated. So long after something happens to you, that business crumbles. But if you're able to build your business in a way with your systems and operations and having all of these components in place as you monetize your brilliance, and we get into that a little later. So you're then able to create your business, let's say in the event planning space, you're conducting retreats, you're conducting these masterminds, you're putting these things together for big individuals that are out there. And guess what? You're able to make really good money with that, okay? And then mastermind group development. What does that mean? It's not just your traditional sense where you have one mastermind and that's it. You can actually be the conduit to actually putting these groups together with your expertise, okay? So then it becomes another stream of monetization, all right? So we get into that aspect of it as well. So when you get into the coaching and consulting part of monetizing your brilliance, You get into the mastermind group development. Some of you are great at putting people together. Some of you have a Rolodex or a database that, that oozes and oozes of all sorts of contacts. And you can put these groups together. And that is a niche in the marketplace. Okay. And why are these things so important right now? Because you're seeing a lot about intelligence. You're seeing a lot about knowledge base. You're hearing a lot about consulting. You're hearing a lot about coaching. You're seeing so many coaching programs that are out there. Just to kind of give you a little background, there is an age in history, we went through the agricultural age. We went through the industrial age, right? We went through the age of when technology was just emerging, right? There was a big boom, lots and lots of opportunities were able to emerge as a result of that. Well, right now, we're in the information age. We're into the age of intellectual property. We're in the age of expertise. So this is the time to be able to capitalize off of all knowledge that you have, the brilliance that you have packaged up, or the brilliance that you haven't quite identified. This is the time for you to sit down, take stock, take an inventory of what it is you do exceptionally well, and figuring out how do you create the way to monetize the gift that you have. And these are just some of the many ways in terms of being able to do so. And it's kind of interesting, when I was trying to figure out what my gift was, it was there all along. But it's interesting. So even with the consultant, because I'm like the go-to for any and everything, I don't care what it is. I get a call for technology, plumbing, whatever it is, because I'm resourceful. And that's part of the consulting thing, right? Coaching and consulting. Common sense isn't common for everyone, especially when it's in your niche area. So what comes to me, okay, if I don't have the answer, give me about an hour or two. I'll become an expert before the end of the day. And that's one of the gifts that I have. And it's interesting because for the longest, for those of you that are familiar with Martin, I think my family swore that I was Tommy. They're like, what do you do? Because I talk about the consulting and coaching, and they're like, what is that? But it's it's one of those things where I was able to package it up and then show them that, no, I'm not Tommy or Tamisha or Martin. I really have a skill set that people actually pay me for, So it's one of those things where I'm just so happy that all of you are here with me today. I know we have limited time, and I'm actually going to pause here for a second so that I can give some of you an opportunity to ask questions. But I have on the screen here, I do have a masterclass that we'll have a little more time that I'm hosting on Saturday at 11 o'clock. It's Monetize Your Brilliance. It's like the next step to being able to learn how to strategize and how to identify your expertise so that you could build a legacy-based coaching/consulting business. And what do I mean legacy-based? Being able to build a business that can last for generations and generations to come. Because when you have the proper systems and structures in place, you have a business that can be replicated, and you have a business that you don't have to be in the business constantly. The goal for me is to be able to build my businesses and being able to step away and they still be able to grow and thrive on their own. And even long after I'm not here, my family and generations to come will still be able to reap the benefits of the fruit of my labor. So if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the chat. I know I kind of said a lot, and I hope I didn't.
I'm going to jump in here, and there's a question from Dr. Des. And so she's looking to monetize expertise in her area. Wasn't really, I guess, maybe a direct question, but obviously this is what you're talking about. And if she may have something more, I'm going through and looking. There's Zoe, who talked about she just left her corporate position 2 years ago. She's coaching, and she's focusing on employee engagement using D&I and process improvement. From Lakina, she says, how do you choose which gift you have to monetize? And I think you probably kind of helped it. So if you want to stop and jump in, but I just wanted to mention some of the things that were in the chat here, and a lot of compliments, and going down, and Liza was asking about what she has to do to prepare to refine her business, that she made the plunge at the end of August, getting out of corporate, and so Letty,
congratulations, that's awesome.
Also figuring out how to build a successful company. And then Cynthia says, is the masterclass on Saturday? And she said, so you might want to clarify the date of the masterclass, I guess.
Yes, it's this Saturday at 11 o'clock via Zoom. And if you, I do have a link that should be in the chat. And if not, if you put register, I can get your information and make sure I send you a link to register for it. And that's what we'll be able to go into, dive a little deeper into some of the things that we discussed today. For those of you that have left your jobs, high five. For those of you that have decided to join this call with us, to be able to just figure out, knowing that wherever you are, there's more for more that you want, more that you know that you have to give to the world, then by all means, I'm so happy that you're here with us today, because keep in mind, for the gifts that you do have, when you decide, for every moment that you delay sharing your gifts for the world, to the world, with the world, you're denying someone else from being able to do the same. Because there's power in your story. Because a lot of times we get to a point where we think, oh, nobody wants to hear about it. No, wow, who's going to listen to my? So many people identify with what it is you've gone through. And sometimes people need to have that courage. They need to be able to see your testimony, your story that becomes your testimony, right? Because a lot of times they see that, as they say, you see the glory and you don't know the story. Some of us, it's not that we just wake up and everything just came so easily for us. We had to go through a journey of self-discovery, a journey of getting past self-doubt, a journey when you're in business for yourself. It's not always so peaches and cream. Some days you wake up and you're figuring out, like, what am I doing? Am I on the right path? It's not for the faint of heart, but knowing that as long as you stay the course and you're passionate and your purpose, I promise you, you will be able to realize your vision, realize your dream, but you have to be able to stay the course. Because a lot of times we get to the point where we're not seeing the returns that we want. We get so discouraged. And it's in that moment of discouragement, the moment you decide to stop and turn around in the other direction, that's when you miss the gift that was there for you all along. It was just up the street, but you decided, I'm throwing in the towel. I'm taking my marbles and I'm leaving the playground. But you have to have the staying power. So that's why it's so important that I mentioned at the beginning of our session. You have to first understand your why. If you don't know your why, chances are you're not going to stick to what it is you're doing, because your why is what you constantly revisit. That gives you that driving point, that helps you to remember why you're doing it, that gives you that driving force so that you can complete it. And it's so important in community. Find yourself an accountability partner. Find yourself people around you that believe in you. And sometimes you don't believe in yourself and you need people around you that can believe in you enough until you're able to believe in yourself. So that's why it's important to be able to have the right alignment as well. Okay, because not everyone will understand your vision, because not everyone understands your journey. Some of you that are looking to make a transition from your business, from your corporate career, from your career into business, not everyone will understand, because they're going to tell you, why are you leaving safety, okay, for the uncertain? But when you just know that burning thing within you, that there is something more out there for you to accomplish, and you have the expertise that God has blessed you with. So just be able to identify it and monetize it. Okay, that's the key thing. So I'm just so happy that I had an opportunity to share this stage with all of you, and Hutch reaching out to me, Denise doing such a great job, and all of you, Hutch and Denise and his team putting together this Black Professional Month. And to be honest with you, this is something I'm just surprised that more people haven't joined, because understand, information cost. Information is expensive, okay? Information is very expensive. I've had clients that have brought me in for 2 hours to solve an issue that was costing them 6 figures, and I was able to make 5 figures just to solve an issue for 2 hours based on my expertise. Okay. And I know I saw Precious in here as well. One of my, we got an award together sometime ago, and Precious knows about the pitch, and she has a session next week, and make sure all of you attended. I know she can attest to it. So being able to identify your gifts. And let me tell you something, the world is waiting for it. So stop hiding behind it. Go out there and make change, impact the world, because the longer you sit and hide with your gift, the more you sit there and you hoard on your gift, and you allow the fear of starting and the fear of failure to hold you back, you're denying other people their opportunity to see what you have and see that it is possible for them too to go on and accomplish their dreams and their vision. So I'm so excited to be here, and I thank you, and I look forward for those of you that will join the masterclass on Saturday. And if you want to reach me, find me on ICABA World Community. Can you put the link in there, Hutch?
Well, I'm actually, there is a great segue. So I was going to tell everybody that a couple things that you want to do. You definitely want to join the ICABA World Community so that you can keep up with great people like Dr. Reggie Lewis and a lot of people that you see on the screen right now. And so it's just, like LinkedIn, so it's free, so you can join. We will charge you if you want to get some of the other good things we got going on with ICABA, but you can come into the community and do that for free. I did want to also say that for our members, we are going to have all the videos that we have from these sessions on the ICABA World Community and our mastermind groups. So we do have mastermind groups, as Reggie talked about. That as being a way for you to really move things forward. I know we've got a couple of speakers here. We've got Precious Williams, who's speaking next week. Dr. Des, I heard her on here. She's speaking next week. And so we're just really excited. We thank you all for coming. So I put on my screen, I don't know about you, how you guys felt, but I just showed Reggie a little love on my screen for what she's done today. So maybe you might want to share a little something as to how you've enjoyed today's session, so that she can get a feel for whether or not she made any impact with you guys or not. So there they go. I see the love, I see the claps, I see the celebration. Guys, if you haven't done this before, when you are speaking to folks on Zoom, and particularly when a lot of you are behind your cards, I call them your business cards, with your name and stuff on them, it can be a little bit challenging for the speaker because you're not getting any nonverbal cues or feedback or anything like that. So be conscious of that. We have a responsibility here. We're not just here, being talked to. This is interactive and engaging. These are Black professionals who are demonstrating and sharing their excellence with you. And so part of that process is that we have a trusted community at ICABA. And so in that trusted community, we show appreciation and value for those people who take the time to prepare something that they're going to share with us that will help us to enhance our career, our business, and our lifestyle. So you be interactive, you be engaged. And I'm going to challenge all of you that the next time you're in one of these sessions, you got to come out from behind the screen. The one thing that you can do is show the person that you have enough, if you will, engagement. I know sometimes you can't do it. Sometimes people are driving, maybe you had a bad hair day, or just maybe you're working and you don't want anybody to know what you're doing. So we know that there are reasons why sometimes people are behind the door, so to speak. But also just think about, we have to be, as I think you used the term earlier, Reggie, about EQ, our emotional IQ. And so our emotional IQ means that when we're involved in a situation like this, actually it's not all about just us. It's about our each one of us individually. It's about us. So let's help our speakers, and so that they can see you and be able to kind of get a feel for, your level of engagement. But we're so happy that you're here. Black Professionals Month is going on. I'm going to just, before I close, which we're going to do in just a second, letting you know that you can go to the blackprofessionalsmonth.com and find out about all the other great events. We've got over 60 speakers, and we're in the process of throwing up the rest of the speakers that we have over the next few months. And we're talking about a little bit of everything from diversity in the sea services, from a rear admiral in the Navy, to mindfulness, to technology, to wine, to travel, leadership development, skill development. And one of the things that you better not miss, pitch, please, from the killer pitch master, Precious Williams. Doesn't a week go by, it seems like, Debbie and Johnny, that Precious is not winning some award from.
Okay, he's frozen. Okay, you're frozen just a little bit there. Okay, good. No, you're kind of froze there for a minute.
Okay. If you go into the chat and you go to the ICABA World Community, we're also going to give you a day pass. So the way that you attend Black Professionals Month, each day is $49. You can go to anything during the day. There is a leader pass for $99, which you can see just about everything that we're doing, except for Dr. Kimbrough and Denise and her BPM mainstream, the top tier. But then for the low price of $199, you get everything. Okay, so you add another 8 events that you're able to participate when you go to the executive level. But we're going to let you get another taste in case this was your first and whatever. You can share with somebody if you want to. So there's a day pass promo code in the chat, and take that down, and you can use that. You can share it with somebody, and it's a one-time deal. And we've got a limited number of those too. So don't put it on LinkedIn, Facebook, or Twitter, and send it to all of your friends, and we'll run out for people who else may want to come. So we're just so happy that you're here, and I'm going to let Reggie have the closing words.
Closing words, yay. Again, I want to thank all of you for being here today, and understand that all of you have a unique gift and talent that the world needs. Monetize your brilliance, use your superpower. So many things in life that can wear you down, but the greatest thing is when you're able to tap into your full potential and be able to have an impact. So again, always understand your why, identify your gift, utilize it, monetize it. I want to be able to thank my beautiful sister that's here all the way from Canada that joined with us, Vicki, and one of my accountability partners, Lakina. It's so important that in order for you to really and truly get to that point of where you're looking to accomplish, grow, you need a team. You need to make sure that you have people around you that believe in you. You need to have people, it's so important to have that alignment with your friends, the alignment with your accountability partners, and that spiritual alignment, most importantly, and being able to grow to that next level that God has ordained for you. So I'm just so excited to be here. And you made it so easier to I love the hearts that I saw. I'm an emoji girl. If I can literally send all my text messages and all my emails just using emojis, I would do that. So I thank all of you for your reactions, and just have a beautiful day and just go out and be great.
Well, thank you, Reggie, again. And also, don't forget, guys, my partner, Denise Kegler, her company, MDK Brand Management in Boston, Massachusetts, she does career development, leadership development, and also personal branding. So as you're thinking about monetizing your brilliance and you need a brand strategist to help you do that, she stands more than ready, capable, willing, and able to do that. So, we bring a lot of resources to you. Enjoy the rest of your day, and thanks for being here.